What was that moment which made you realize that, okay, this is the time for me to move to in-house?
Like most law students in India, I had that dream of working for a tier one law firm. But life had slightly different plans for me.
How does legal drive revenue?
One is by mitigating risks,
Okay.
right? So if you are doing the right risk mitigation exercises well in time.
Do you think AI can help the founders and these CFOs better also if they do not have a counsel help?
Honestly, to some extent, but
Mhm.
please note that AI is very risky when it comes to law.
What message would you like to give your younger self?
You need to embrace the joy of missing out at times as a legal professional.
Real hi, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks Prayank for having me. Good morning.
My pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure. How are you doing today, Real?
All good, Prayank. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing wonderful, wonderful. I mean, there are so many things which I want to accomplish in 2026, and I'm sure you would have also made some of those lists at your end when it comes to resolution and how the new year should go. So, if I want to ask, if you don't mind, would you share some of your resolution for 2026?
So, honestly, I don't believe in resolutions. I take it one day at a time, and that's how I pay for it. Because as lawyers, we've been conditioned very early on from our careers to just always have the switch on, keep doing something, accomplish this, do that, do this. So, I like taking it slow now, and I feel that's the more sustainable way of taking this forward as well. So I don't have
Mhm.
any big resolution plans. I just want to
Okay.
continue working on my fitness, work how I'm working, and take it one day at a time.
Oh, interesting. Very, very lovely. Tell me one thing, Rial. So, you said lawyers are always having that switch on, right? So, when did you realize that law is something which I want to pursue? So, basically, I want to understand how was your early childhood days? What defining moments you had which made you who you are today? So, if you can walk us through that journey from childhood until now, you can talk about some of the uh, defining moments in your life until now which made you who you are today. I think that would give us a great understanding of who you are as a person and everything around you as well.
Sure, definitely. So law happened to me by chance, honestly. I was a PCM student, a science till 12th standard. And as any other parent would expect, right, a PCM student to either get into IITs or like pursue engineering from a BITS Pilani or somewhere. And my parents would also have those similar aspirations from me. But early on from my childhood, I have been very curious about things in general. I mean, even though related to science, let's say where the sun rises from or how is the earth round, all of those things. But in general, about why do we have these legal systems? Why are the laws the way they are? Why do we have to stop at a red light and get challaned if we are crossing it? All of those things occurred to me very early on as a child, and what happens when there's a crime happening. So for me, it wasn't law about specializing in law per se, but knowing general ways of living, right? How does one need to live, survive on this earth, and also ensure that they're compliant with the legal systems in place. So the curiosity arose very early on for me from that point itself. And like I said, law happened to me by chance. I was not tutoring or getting trained for IITs as such, but till 12th standard, I was not too sure which direction I want to lean really.
Mhm.
I think it occurred to me that okay, why not give it a shot? Let's see if I like, because I've loved logic from very beginning. Even when I was studying for CLAT, right, the Common Law Entrance Admission Test, I would really love going through the logic and the legal aptitude sections. Because those are primarily sections where you get a problem and you need to solve those problems by applying logic, not per se by knowing the law, what it is. Right? is most of our laws are logical in nature. Mm. It's not like you really have a rocket science built up here that you need to mug up or go through something and then be able to answer some questions. But most of the times, all our laws are logical in nature and they flow from A to B. So that's what actually made me pursue law. I was very curious about things in general, and during this journey, I'd also made a pact with myself. Okay, I'll give it 1 year. If I don't like it, it doesn't interest me enough. I would want to go back to engineering. Maybe try that out. And thankfully, touch wood, like Indian parents are very conservative about what their child is doing, how, and very few people get to experiment the way I did. Thankfully, it worked out for me in the first shot itself. I didn't have to go back to engineering. My year one at law school was amazing. It's the best time of my life that I'd had so far. And I started with contract law, and I still remember I was so happy the day I had my first class. And that, okay, I'm glad I've taken this subject and I've chosen law, and it really made me happy. So it didn't feel like I had to study something, but I was just learning something.
Interesting. So, but I agree that you moved from PCM to law because of curiosity, but there has to be somebody who might have given you some direction, saying that, you know what, this could be an option as well. While you were doing PCM and pursuing engineering or related streams, who was that person, and why and how did you get inspired to get into law?
Honestly, every schools, I don't know these days how it works, but my school used to have these career counseling sessions. And they would ask you certain set of questions, similar questions to everyone. There used to be a form we would fill, and then they would rate you in which parameters you're really good at and where they think you can improve, etc. So I got two career options at that point that they
Okay.
shortlisted for me. One was
Okay.
law, and the other one was also in public policy related to law. So I
Interesting.
was very clear that okay, maybe that is something I can consider, try it out if it doesn't
Mhm.
work out. And that's when I started reading. I think it was closer to the middle of my class 12th
Mhm.
academic year, which is when I
Okay.
started reading about law schools in India,
Mhm.
how law is actually framed in India, and all of those things, right? And that's when I started developing that interest. That okay, this is something I can consider as a career option. Also, by the way, at that point, I wasn't even fully aware how corporate law works in India. I wasn't fully aware the scope of transactions. I was aware there are investments happening, but I didn't know what a lawyer would do there. To me, at that point, it felt more like a commercial negotiation taking place between two parties. I was not fully aware of how law could really help, or lawyers could really help those transactions going through. So that is something I got more exposed to after joining law school. But at least the basics of why law started much earlier.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. What are your favorite subjects in law, or favorite
I
stream of law?
Contract laws,
Mhm.
IP laws, and just commercial laws in general.
Any particular reason for these?
More logical,
Mhm.
less abstract. That's the reason. If you would notice, the constitution or the international laws are more abstract in nature,
Mhm.
whereas the
Mhm.
commercial laws, contract laws, IP laws are a little more logical in nature, and that's why, like, I uh, lean towards them.
Okay. Interesting. Very, very beautiful. So, when I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, I saw you had a couple of corporate law firm stints as well in the beginning of your career, and then you moved in house and you continuing to be in the in house practice. So, what was that moment which made you realize that okay, this is the time for me to move to in house, or or was that any specific goal which you had while you were studying in law school, that okay, ultimately I want to go to in-house? So like, did you plan for it? Did you aspire to be in-house, or again you just accidentally happened to be an in-house lawyer?
So that's a great question, and I would like to share my journey with you. Honestly, if you look at my journey so far, there's one changing point that occurred, which I would call the day when I realized that the definition of success for me was very different before that day, and it completely transformed after that day. So I would want to talk about that phase. I started my career in a very usual manner. I wouldn't call my story very unusual, at least in the beginning, right? Um, like most law students in India, I had that dream of working for a tier one law firm. Go there, build a name over a decade, make a partner, work on all big ticket M&A, VC transactions. And my goal was sketched out very well. I was all set to be there. But life had slightly different plans for me. I started my career at a tier two law firm in India. And as opposed to tier one law firms where, practice areas are very niche and compartmentalized. If you're in general corporate, you only do general corporate. If you're in IP, you only do IP. Tier two law firms are a little more unstructured in that context, right? So you get to do a lot more when you're working for a tier two law firm because there are less number of people and matters are similar. Maybe the ticket size may be a little smaller, but the laws are the same, right? So at my tier two law firm, I was exposed to a wide spectrum of laws in the budding years of my career. I was doing general corporate M&A VC transactions. I was doing advisory on employment matters, conducting internal investigations for a company. I was also exposed to IP laws, land laws, and the list was endless, which is when I actually saw how law interacts with human, honestly, at that
Mhm.
juncture, that job. And I was quite satisfied, but like I told you, my goal was to ultimately work for a tier one. I eventually
Mhm.
moved to a tier one, and while the experience and the challenges were quite intellectual in nature, and I was happy there, but something didn't quite sit right with me, honestly, Prayank,
Mhm.
because
Okay.
I was looking for something more. I had that quiet realization along the journey that I wanted to see what happens in a company after that deal gets closed, right? So from the outside, as a law firm lawyer, I would advise people that, okay, do XYZ things. I make policies for them. I tell them that, okay, hey, these are the three things you can do. But that wasn't really, giving me my purpose fully, and I wanted to really see how I could make an impact on the business from the legal side of things, which is when I decided to take a leap of faith and go in house. And that's where my in house journey started. Quite interestingly, I started my journey with a limited charter. I was hired at Whatfix only for general corporate matters and transactions such as mergers and acquisitions, etc. Right? Or fundraisers that the company would go through. But within a year, that changed. It turned around, and I saw myself so deeply involved in high stake international litigations. I was advising the internal HR team on employment matters. I was also working on investigations. I was also working with the product and engineering team on the IP strategy. And this was obviously on top of the routine contracting work that one would undertake as an in house counsel. So I felt that immediate sense of impact, right? And I could see that impact, I could see that impact getting materialized. I also saw that the impact in house is actually tangible, much more than you could see it from outside when you're a law firm lawyer, right? And I would say that's one of the biggest learnings I've had. which is at this juncture, I realized that, okay, legal is not just a support function. It is actually a function that can drive revenue for the company. It has actually a lot of significance, and it's for companies who can realize that, the earlier the better. But this was the changing turning point in my life, and I realized that, okay, lawyers are not just a support function. They can actually do a lot more if they are there with the right mindset.
Interesting, very beautiful journey. I'm glad you made a switch and now thriving as well. I want to understand more about your comment on legal is not just a support function, but it can drive revenue. How does legal drive revenue? If you can explain this.
So I think the answer would be multifold.
Hmm.
One is by mitigating risks,
Okay.
right? So if you are doing the right risk mitigation exercises well in time, and this
Mhm.
is not like after it has already occurred, but if you're planning the risk, see, to me, Prayank, in-house law is not about removing the risk altogether, right? Because you have to strike that balance between business and risk.
Mhm.
Risk could be legal, regulatory, whatnot. But in-house law is more about knowing what the risks are, seeing if your company has that appetite to take that risk, and also having a plan in place that, okay, the day that risk arises, I am prepared to deal with it.
Okay.
So that's when I think legal, if it pre-plans the three steps that I just talked about, can really help someone, a company like, let's say, a startup or a company like WhatFix, sort of overcome those risks, and also have avoid the negative impact on the revenue, right? And through that, it can actually lead to a positive impact on the revenue by just avoiding that negative impact. Other ways of how I believe legal can actually help making revenue better is by finding ways to do the mundane day-to-day contracting tasks way more faster. Look at things that really matter. It's not like every clause in the contract has a consequence. So don't unnecessarily redline things. And I saw that change in me when I was at a law firm. I would be redlining almost every single line in a contract, and we used to get paid for it. Come on, like, law firms charge on an hourly basis, and my boss used to bill my ass for every redlining I was doing. But only in in-house I realized, okay, not every word needs to be redlined, right? You need to find what really matters to you, what really matters to your business. So that ways you end up saving a lot of time, moving contracting faster, helping the business and sales to generate the revenues faster. So again, that ways legal can really assist if they work hand in hand as a true blue partner of the business. Besides that, if you have the right IP strategy in mind, you can really commercialize those IPs. Or also, if that day arises for you, it's not like every startup can do that, but again, like, it's a more of a revenue making plus a defensible kind of a strategy, which makes this really important, where if a business has the right IP strategy and the right IP protection, that IP strategy and protection can actually help businesses grow multifold within years.
Mhm. Interesting. Thanks for clarifying this. I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this would get inspiration from this because I mean, whenever I speak to founders and even the other people as well in those companies, people have this notion that legal is a cost function. But after speaking to almost 80 plus in-house counsels, almost everybody echoed the same that we are not a cost function. Actually, we are supporting the revenue as well by mitigating all this risk, by identifying opportunities to protect, by identifying opportunities to leverage, and reducing time as well. Thanks, Rial, for sharing your views. And 100% agree to the fact that every word need not to be redlined. I mean, uh, Same thing happens with us as well when the contracts come over and we are hiring somebody or onboarding some vendor or some partners, and we are looking at things, and if I'm getting into those redlining too, and it's only going to increase back and forth, versus we reduce those things, look at the impact and just move forward, that will be much more beneficial for parties involved. 100% with you on this. So since you spoke about moving to in-house and getting into multiple things, right, from HR to contract to fundraising and everything, uh, how should a startup look at going for onboarding somebody in-house itself? So if you're talking about some company who has raised few millions, they are, let's say, as a series A, but they do not have an in-house counsel yet. What is the right time to have an in-house counsel, and how would a startup know that they are ready to have an in-house counsel now?
That's a great question, Prayank, and there is no one thing fits all answer to this, honestly, because every business has different needs, right? And there could be sectors that are heavily regulated, wherein you can't take that risk. My view on this question would be, for every startup, the advice would be to plan this early on. Don't delay this, or don't sort of put this on hold for way later in the business. But you should be aware of the risks, the regulations associated with your business very early on. So, what a startup can actually do is have an external counsel, walk them through the risks required, the compliances that are required on a day to day basis, look at the extent of how much of it can be managed by the stakeholders that are currently in the system with the help of external counsels, right? Because more often than not, when there's no in-house counsel, it's either the founders or the CFO working with the external counsel. So you need to really know whether these two stakeholders, either the founder or the CFO or whoever it is, I don't know, it could be someone else like CISO in a company who's looking at legal, you need to be confident that that person can manage the trajectory of the business in terms of a regulatory and a compliance POV as well. You can't put that for later because there are consequences for not having complied with laws if you're way into the business. So you want to pre-plan these things. You don't want to put them for later or box them and keep them in a shelf. So, my advice for startups would be to get this enablement or education very early on, right? From the very beginning, you understand the sector you're in, the laws that the government of India currently has, or if you're operating in international markets, then you need to understand, at least have a bird's eye view of everything that really applies to you, and then plan accordingly based on the members you have internally, looking at their prior experiences of how they have been able to handle similar situations for their previous organizations, and then take that decision, because sometimes, we're trying to save one member's cost in a company which could cost you a lot more. I suggest one should look at these things very early on, get a plan made through an external counsel, get them engaged and onboarded. There are also fractional counsels these days in the market. So one can also use those services if you don't think you need a full time counsel on board. If you're just starting out, you may not necessarily need to have one on board, right? So during the early stages, a company could also consider having a fractional counsel, which is one person is a general counsel to multiple companies, right? So that could also help them at least ensure they're fully compliant. And they could then have a couple of junior lawyers working on their day to day contracting, and then those junior lawyers can get coached by the fractional counsel that there is.
Okay. Do you think AI can help the founders and these CFOs better also if they do not have a counsel help?
Honestly, to some extent. But
Mhm.
please note that AI is very risky when it comes to law. We also use AI here, but we can't use it for everything we do.
Okay.
Let's say the tool which generates red lines, which we call as the first cut of red lines. So it compares the drafts that have come to us from our customers with our standard clauses,
Okay.
right? And it throws the results that, okay, this clause is not as per our standard clause, but then ultimately who decides whether we should accept those clauses or not? There has to be a
Mhm.
human around it.
Right.
We can't just simply rely on AI. So I would say that to understand from a very high level, a founder could actually rely on AI and understand, but I wouldn't recommend them to solely rely on AI to take those decisions. That
Mhm.
comes at a very high risk.
But do you think if AI gets matured in the future, you'd be able to harness the power of AI and get more efficiencies?
Efficiency, definitely. And forget about future. I'm still seeing that right now. Like the redlining of contracts, I would say the TAT has increased by, if not 10x, at least by 3 to 4x. Right. So if, let's say, my colleague used to take 2 hours reviewing an MSA, it's only taking him around 45 minutes to 50 minutes now, because the tool is doing the first level of redlining, showing results as to what all is not as per our standard contracting templates. It's also giving suggestions based on the playbooks I've created on the tool, right? So it gives them suggestions that, okay, in place of this, you use this clause, such as that. And it's good because at least for someone like me, I don't have to sit with every junior lawyer and train them, okay, that in place of this clause, you have to use that clause. And in-houses are always about efficiency, right? We don't have a team of 100 lawyers, especially in startup. We get only a minimum team and hands that can work for you, and you need to plan those resources better. So I would say in-house roles are way more practical than a law firm role. And AI, to some extent, can help us increase that efficiency, but I don't think it could ever do away with the business human judgment that one
Okay.
needs to have in play.
Hmm. Interesting. So, mm, broadly, you're saying humans should team up with AI to make things efficient, more optimized, and fast paced as well, with reduced cost for sure. Interesting. So, Real, since you have been at Whatfix for some time now, and you must have seen multiple rounds of fundraising as well. There is a very common question where people do not understand how to get investment ready, or what are the things which one should look at when it comes to raise funds from the legal lenses. On the finance side, everybody knows how to get ready, but on legal side, if you can throw some light around this, how does this whole thing go, and what's the role of an in-house lawyer when it comes to fundraise?
Sure. So I would want to start with one word, structure. You need to really have a structure for all the laws and regulations that apply to you. Create that repository well in advance, right? So if let's say there's a data room required for every fundraise, and any investor who's coming on board would want to check that, okay, you're fully compliant with laws, your share certificates are in order, every share that the company has issued is valid and legal in nature. So these are some very basic examples that I've shared, but they would want to look at it further from a lens of risk, whether there are any laws that the company is not fully compliant with, what are the risks entailed, how can we mitigate those risks, are there any condonations to any delayed filings that are available in the sector, etc. So I usually start with having a data room ready. Um, that data room should not be something that you're building only when you're about to carry out a fundraise. That data room is an ongoing exercise you need to do every single day, or let's say every single week. You should not put it for later. you should actually look at everything that you need to have for a fundraise due diligence, create folders in your organization, and ensure that all of that data is securely kept there, so that whenever you need to have a fundraise, or whenever you have the request to share the data room access, you don't need to go back in time and create it. You have everything ready, and you share the necessary documents with the investor councils. They review. If they have any questions, they have any feedback, they can share that with you. Also, one more added way to fast track these things is to carry out vendor due diligences. Mm. So there are two types of diligences that one can look at. One is target due diligence, which usually the investor councils carry out on a company, and the other one is a vendor due diligence, which the company itself carries out on itself. So if you're ready with that, and you hire an external counsel to conduct that due diligence on you, they would actually certify that okay, you're compliant with xyz things, and they would also tell you in advance that these two three things are missing. So why don't you work on those two three things well in advance, even before you have a funding offer. That ways you end up saving a lot of time to mitigate the risks, to cover up the compliances that were missing in your company well in advance. And whenever the real funding actually happens, you're all set, you're ready.
Interesting. Can you share a bit more on vendor due diligence? I'm hearing that this piece for the first time.
Okay, sure. So vendor due diligence is nothing but it's a term we used to use in law firms when
Mhm.
the company itself is carrying out a diligence on itself.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's not like the investor has been identified or anything. We are
Mhm.
still in talks with investors, but we know that the company may want to raise a round very soon. So why
Okay.
don't we prepare ourselves and be ready, and hire a law firm, external law firm, to conduct a diligence on us? That law firm would essentially identify the risks that the investor law firm would, investor counsel would identify. So why don't we hire our own law firm, keep ready with all of the compliances or the red flags or green flags, everything in the report ready, and share that report with whoever the investor is. How this really helps is in most cases, I've seen the investor counsel feels comfortable relying on that external vendor due diligence report. And they say that, okay, we don't need to conduct our own report, but we will simply execute a reliance letter with that vendor due diligence external legal counsel, and we would rely on their report.
Okay. Understood.
So
Thank you so much.
it ends up saving a lot of time.
Mhm. I'm sure. I'm sure. This is a very good way of getting yourself ready before even you go out to shop in the market.
Correct.
Lovely. So tell me one thing, Riel. How is in-house counsel motivating the engineering team on the innovation front? What's your role? How are you able to push them move forward, secure more IPs, create more IPs? How are you able to do all of this?
So, my I'll start with what my strategy is in general, and in my opinion, how this should be done. I'm sure different people are doing it differently, but my view that I keep sharing in the organization is also to start early, right? Start protecting IP early, and it's not like every piece of uh, patents or innovation need protection. It really depends on multiple factors. So then I look at the first lens of alignment. How aligned is IP, or the patentable sort of technology, how aligned it is with the business of the company and the medium to long term goals of the company. So there could be multiple innovations happening in my engineering team, but not every innovation can be protected because, of course, every innovation protection comes at a cost. It has costs of protecting the patent, filing the patent, getting it registered, strategic costs, in-house costs, because I end up spending a lot of time. Engineers are spending a lot of time when working on that patent application. So first, I think layer of lens to look at what needs to be protected is ensuring that it is aligned with the business of the company, the direction which the product roadmap of the company is moving forward in, as well as the alignment with the medium and long term goals of the company. Now, how legal actually plays a role in encouraging engineers or the product teams is we have a policy in place. One is to incentivize them for every innovation they do, right? And every innovation or every patent rather that we file with them. Uh, Now, how do we decide which patents are worthy of protection, which technology is worthy of getting patented? That's again a layered test. I not only look at, okay, there's an innovation and we need to protect it. No, there's an innovation. I look at how the tech has been developed, how well it is integrated into the product, and how easy or hard it is for any competitor or any third party to reverse engineer it. um, and all of this is after applying obviously the test of alignment, right? It's not like tomorrow I wake up and I make an innovation and tell my company to patent it. No, that's not how it works. You need to ensure that it's aligned with where the business product roadmap is moving. So the categories of information we look at, and that's when we decide, okay, that this piece of technology should actually be protected. So that's how legal works closely with engineers and product teams in my current org as well. And that's how one should actually work closely in startups to ensure that the correct technology is getting protected, because every protection comes at a cost. And with the speed the market's actually moving right now, everything's so evolving that you spend time in filing a patent on X, and the other day you realize that okay, this may not be as important right now because we're all moving towards this. So there are different paths that an organization or an early stage startup also goes through. It's not like the strategy is written in stone. We have to The IP strategy has to keep evolving, at least revisited every once a quarter. um, and then one needs to strategize, de-strategize, and re-strategize very quickly to ensure that we are achieving the right results.
Okay. Do you think IP also helps in raising funds at higher valuation?
Definitely, definitely. So again, let me take a step back and suggest how one should look at what IPs do they need to protect. It really depends on the stage of business they are in, right? So my recommendation to a startup which is about to raise funds or about to go public through an IPO would be to safeguard as many IPs as possible, because that's also very lucrative for investors to see and get comfortable with the company that okay, the technology part is getting protected, because especially in tech companies, the technology is the business. And if the technology is not fully protected, then the investors may not even feel that confident in what you're doing. And or forget about investors, the public may not feel to invest or subscribe to your IPO. So it really depends on what stage of the company you're in. The IP strategy needs to evolve accordingly. If you're looking to raise funds or go public, then you have to have a strategy of safeguarding as much technology as you can, definitely with the test of alignment being in play. But at the same time, if you're in a very litigious space, for example, a technology which is very competitive, you may want to create that patent portfolio much stronger and ahead of than the other competitors are doing, because when you're litigated against, Sometimes you can use your patents to raise counterclaims against your competitors, and that's how the post lawsuit strategy comes into play. So it really depends on the stage of business you're in, and given everything said and done, ultimately there are costs associated with every IP filing we are doing, whether it's in India or in the US or anywhere else in the world. So it's not like a one size fits it all kind of an answer, but you need to understand where your organization is headed, what are your medium to long term goals, and accordingly take a decision.
Interesting. You mentioned a very good point that there are costs associated with all of this, right? You are filing applications across the country, across the globe. So how do you carve out a budget for IP? What's is there a number, some correlation between the funding or revenue, or how do you come up with that budget itself? That okay, this is what we will be investing into IP, or these many applications we would be targeting for a year. How do you do that planning?
So, at least Prayank in the current organization, that budget doesn't sit with me. It sits
Mhm.
with the engineering team.
Okay.
We don't really have a budget per se in mind in terms of the
Mhm.
cost. But what I usually recommend is to have a number of patents that we should file a year instead of budget that we should look at. That's because we're also on our path to IPO right now. So we are constantly working towards getting that protection that we need for the core technologies at play. More than that, anything new that's happening, right? We need to very early on decide whether, okay, this will work for us or not, and take the decision of safeguarding it before any of our competitors does. So, the strategy here is slightly different. It's not based on the actual costs associated with the protection, but it's based on how much do we really need to protect. And that's how I would advise other startups as well, that unless like cost is really an issue, they should really look at what the need is, right? I'm not saying that go overboard and protect every piece of technology you're creating. That's not required. But starting early to protect IP is very important, and you need to decide which IP you need to protect to scale your business better.
Beautiful. Very, very wonderfully explained. So, Rial, help me understand this thing. Currently, you're doing IP contracts, helping the company raise funds as well. In the past, you have done contracts as well and M&A deals and all of that. What does success mean now to you?
Okay. That's a question I need to think through a bit. Success means to me, okay. Uh, I so th- I want to give a little background and then tell you
Mhm.
what success would mean to
Sure.
me now. So this is my pre in-house days and post in-house days is how I would want to categorize it. I used to work for a law firm. I would give a lot of advice to these clients of mine there. Create policies for them, flag risks for them, make all sorts of recommendations. But I would never be bothered about how it's actually being implemented, right? I would not think through how the client would actually be implementing the advice I've given within its organization. I would issue opinions on my paper, but I would not really closely work with the client to ensure that it's actually getting implemented on ground.
Right.
Um, After moving in house, things have changed drastically. I
Mhm.
think I've come closer to reality of how law actually the legal advice gets implemented, adopted, and also leaves an impact. So that is something that has changed for me, and that idea of success of issuing correct legal opinions has changed now because it's also about implementing those within the organization. aligning those with the commercial strategy of the organization and aligning those with the risk appetite of the company. So it's not always about giving the right opinion now. It's about giving an opinion that actually could have an impact. For instance, like I said earlier, I think as well that there is no right or wrong in in-house. You need to learn to say no, when to say yes, and how to take the business forward responsibly. So it's not always that a situation is right or wrong. There are, you need to find ways that okay, if we take this path, then it comes with these many risks. Are we okay to take these risks? If we take this path, this has lesser risks, but it also has some impact on the commercial side of things. So okay, but this is this could be the path of least resistance in terms of law, and then this is a very high risk path. Are we willing to take that path? So you need to advise the management accordingly, and ultimately counsel them to take the right decision. And that's how I think legal becomes a business enabler, then being a gatekeeper to the things that business is going through. Also, like you asked, what success really now is to me, it is to keep switching hats multiple times in every single, because sometimes I'm wearing a business hat. I'm advising my sales team that okay, I'm looking at contracts with them from a commercial lens. We have targets and revenue goals to be met in a particular quarter. We have timeline pressures. We have to close this deal, but at the same in the same day, at the very next moment, I'm looking at it from a legal lens. Okay, are we willing to take these many risks? Are these contractual clauses okay for us in the longer run? And so I'm constantly juggling between roles. I'm partnering at one given time with my marketing team to see how they want to make these outreaches to prospects or make cold calls, but at the same time ensuring that the do not contact policies are not disrespected. um, Similarly, like I'm working with product and engineering teams, ensuring that they are getting rightly enabled and educated to know that okay, this is the invention I've done, but I don't know if this can be IP'd, if this can be protected. As an engineer or as a product team member, how would I know that, okay, this is something I've done, but this can be protected? So, um, educating them and enabling them in the right direction, but at the same time, also ensuring that we are protecting the right IP. So, that's the balancing act that an in house counsel really needs to do on an every single day. Um, and I think I wouldn't say that I have mastered it completely. It's a learning process. Every single day you come up, you're faced with different challenges and circumstances, and you have to keep switching the hats that you're wearing constantly. Another associated challenge is to groom the team.
Mhm.
Come from different backgrounds. Like some people are from law firms, some come from very different legal setups, where this balancing may not be very common. So, explaining to them that okay, there is business, there's risk, and you need to have a balance. Leaning towards any one of them could be very dangerous. So
Mhm.
you have to strike that balance very clearly. So motivating them, grooming them to do that, again, is my day to day part of my day to day challenge. But I think I'm moving one step ahead every single day on it, and I think that's success to me.
Beautiful, beautiful. So while sharing what success means, you also spoke about your challenges and how the everyday uh, you wearing multiple hats and decision juggling between those decisions also is important. Uh, Beautiful share. Thank you so much, Rial, for sharing these. Just before we close in, I just have one question for you, Rial. Is if there needs to be, let's say, one change which you want to bring to in-house lawyers role or the work which you guys do, what would that be and why? Now this change could be anything. It could be related to an organization, related to some government things, related to procedure or anything, if you have to, let's say, bring in one change, what would that be?
One change, and this is not, this question is not pertaining to me
For
and
the
the
individuals.
organization, but it's
You,
in
you
general
can you can
for
share. Not, I mean, the more personal you go, that would be better, because general then it will become very wider, very broad.
okay. Okay. So I'll first talk about what I'll first talk about how things are here in my team, and then probably uh, throw some light on the overall sector and the in-house counsel's role. Um, the mindset that organizations and business stakeholders have towards legal as a support function really needs to change. They feel that okay, legal is a gatekeeper to everything we do. They do not look at us as friends, but rather enemies. And that is something that really needs to change. They need to look at us more like business enablers than as business gatekeepers, asking them or restricting them from doing XYZ things. So that is something I really wish I could change across organizations. Thankfully, here I've seen that changing over time, right? So there was this one very important project that I was a part of, which made a huge difference in the organization. And I felt that was a turning point where they could see the value a legal team brings on the table. And trust me, Prayank, from that day onward, there are barely any important decisions that go without legal being involved. And I get to be a part of the leadership team meetings where they're discussing day-to-day business, and everything is sort of getting filtered through me. And that's the best part of that change. And I could actually double click on that incident that I've just talked about a little bit. Uh, this company was going to build a migration tool, or let's say a migration structure to migrate its customers from other vendors onto itself. And this industry wide, there was no sort of common framework that's associated with migrating these clients. So this was a very tricky scenario where we had to ensure that there are very limited legal risks, because when you're migrating from a competitor, it's very risky to the extent of information you get exposed to, right? In terms of what the competitor has and the customer has built on the competitor, and you're trying to migrate it. And that's when I had sort of very early on got involved, advised on what the strategy should be, also highlighted the risks, that okay, these are the risks associated with it, and this is how we can deal with it when that risk occurs. And I mean, this went through, and we did see a couple of claims that arose against us, and I was able to successfully resolve those claims as per my original plans. And that again sort of confirmed the fact that in houses you really need to decide or make decisions based on a balancing act. It can't always be that we always take a very risk averse way forward. We have to strike that balance. We need to know the implications in advance, and then accordingly decide which way to move forward.
Interesting. I'm glad you could get that early victory, which gained the confidence. And you said right, almost all the organizations still think that in-house counsels or lawyers in general are the gatekeepers, and they are the blockers. While what we are trying to do actually is take the business forward and enable that engine to get more profits and lesser risk, lesser lawsuits, so that the business can actually do the things which it was supposed to do. Uh, Rightfully put that. And yes, so yeah, just last one question, Real. I'm sorry to bring you one more question.
No, no
What
problem.
message would you like to give your younger self, uh, who changed the trajectory from PCM to law, and how happy, satisfied, content, whatever you are today? what message would you like to give to that younger Rial in 12th standard?
Um, I would actually not want to limit that message to just the 12th standard Real, but also law school Real. Um, I think I very initially during the podcast, I told you how lawyers are just conditioned from the very beginning while they are in law school to never take a break, right? To always like, continue juggling between things, between law, moot courts, mock trials, internships, and multiple seminars, MUNs, and plethora of diplomas that one can get sort of badged with. I would want to tell my younger self to embrace the JOMO, move from FOMO to JOMO, because you need to embrace the joy of missing out at times. As a legal professional, your learning never stops. You're always learning, unlearning, and relearning in your careers throughout your careers. So it's not like you can do something in law school that will sort of continue being the same as is throughout your career. You have to continuously and constantly keep learning, unlearning, relearning. So I would say take it a bit slow, easy. Embrace the JOMO. Take some time out for yourself. Carve out time to work on your personal growth as well. Because ultimately, everything works out.
All right. Awesome. Lovely. So basically, you're saying take more breaks and do not feel guilty about taking those breaks, because yes, we do have a habit of not taking breaks, and I think this applies to me as well. And I'll learn from it, and will embrace the JOMO rather than the
Okay.
FOMO. Yeah,
So,
great terminology. Love it.
Prayank, every time I would take a break, I would always have that constant sense of falling behind.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's something we need to consciously work on and change, especially
Hmm.
as lawyers. I don't know about other sort of other people like engineers or MBAs, etc. But at least I've seen this very closely amongst my lawyer friends, within myself, that any single break you take, you really, and even if it's a short break, you really start thinking you're falling behind. And that is something you need to consciously work on and change.
I agree 100%. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all these wisdom and hacks and tips for the young lawyers and the people who are working in house as well, Rial. This was lovely talking to you. I really enjoyed our conversations, and I'm really, really thank you that you could give us your precious time and share the wonderful things with us.
Thanks so
Thanks for
much,
joining
Prayank,
us.
for having me here. Thanks. Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.